Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Easy Explanation. In this video tutorial, we'll be learning about the concept of class and object in C++. So, class and objects are core concept of any object-oriented programming language. So, class and objects are core concept of any object oriented programming languages. So what object oriented programming language does is object oriented programming language help you to model any real world entity as a software entity. So object oriented programming language or what we can say is if you are developing any software by using object-oriented programming language, so if you are developing any software using any object-oriented programming language like Java or C++, what object-oriented programming language does is object-oriented programming language models any real world object as software entity. So what object-oriented programming language does is, like if you are developing any software by using object-oriented programming language like C, C++, Java or Python, so object-oriented programming language will first identify what are the different real-world entity that we are trying to use in our software. Then what it does is it models all those identified real-world entity as a software entity. So what does this mean is, let us say we are developing a college management system. Let us say we are developing a college management system. Now in order to develop a college management software or college management system, like if you are using any object-oriented programming language like C++ to develop that software, then what the first job of the software developer will be first identify all the entity that will interact with those system. So the first job of software developer is to identify the entity of the system, identify the entity or objects that will interacts with the college management system, or let us say system or software. So for the college management system, the identified entity will be, let us say our college management system will manage a student, then they will manage teachers, then they will manage any administration staff, they will manage any department, they will manage, means in the department we will have a academics department as well as administrative department. So many things are there. So basically first the software developer or software engineer will identify these entities, which are student, teachers, staff and the departments. Once the entity are identified, then by using object-oriented programming language, this entity will be modeled as a software entity. So how this entity will be modeled as a software entity? So in order to understand this concept, let us say we are talking about entity called as a student over here. Let us say we'll talk about the entity student. So how will model this actual student entity as a software entity? For that we'll first identify all the attributes related to a student. So the attributes related to a student will be, any student will have name, the student will have address, a student will have a roll number, a student will have marks obtained, right? And obviously a student will belong to some department, so belongs to department. So these are some of the attributes or feature related to any student in that particular college. So obviously the student will also possess some behavior. So the behavior related to a student is something like this. Now a student can see their result. So this is the one behavior related to the student. A student can write exams. A student need to pay fees, etc. So these are some of the behavior related to that student. So the attribute related to the students are name, address, etc. and the behavior related to the students are can see their result, can write exams, can pay fees, etc. there. So not only for the student, for all the entity that are identified, they possess some behavior and attributes. So all the real world entity will have some attributes and behavior. Now this concept will be modeled as a software entity. Now for that, in order to convert this thing attributes and behavior as a software entity, we'll be using the concept called as a class. Okay, but we'll be using the concept called as a class. So what class is? Now we can define the concept of class. Now what class is? Class is a blueprint for creating objects. Now there will be another concept called as objects. So if I'm calling this student as a class, then what do you mean by objects? In order to understand that, objects are, let us say there is a student called as a Ram. There is a student called as a Ram. Now Ram is a actual student. You can say that Ram is of a type a student. So Ram is an actual student. Obviously this person Ram will have a name, which will be obviously Ram. Then we'll have some address, which will be Kathmandu, let us say. Then there will be some roll number assigned to that particular student, to Ram, which is, let us say roll number is 14, and there will be marks obtained, let us say 220, etc. Obviously Ram will have some behavior. Ram will have some behavior like Ram can see his result, Ram can write exams, Ram have to pay fee, etc. So you can see we have two concepts over here. This student is a umbrella term, or this is the general term, and Ram is a actual student over here. So in case of object oriented programming language, this general term is called as a class, and the actual objects are called as a objects. Actual objects are called as a object. So you can see this thing is a class in object oriented programming language, and these are called as the objects in a object oriented programming language. So we can use this concept attributes and behavior related to this particular entity student to create as many objects. Means we can use this concept to create as many students, like one will be Ram. So Ram will have all these attributes and its related value. So Ram will have all these behavior and its related values. Similarly, if you are creating Sita as another student, so Sita will also have name, Sita will have address, Sita will have roll number, marks obtained, etc. Sita will have all these behaviors. So here in this case, Ram and Sita are nothing but some objects, and objects of type what? Objects of type student. So these students along with their attributes and behavior are called as a class, concept of a class, and Ram and Sita with their attributes and their associated values are called as a objects. So in this way you can understand the concept of class and object. Now we can write the formal definition of class in context of object oriented programming language as class is a blueprint for creating objects. So obviously this act as a blueprint, right? This act as a blueprint. So all the students that will be creating from now onwards will need to have and must have these types of attributes, and they need to possess all this behavior. So if you are a student of a college, then you need to have name, roll number, address, and you need to possess all this. You can possess all these behaviors. So class is a blueprint for creating objects. And what is object? Objects are nothing but instance of a class. Instance of a class. So what we can say, what we can say is, now in context of this, in the context of this Ram, Sita and a student, what we can say is Ram is an instance of a student, and Sita is an instance of a student. So class always represents general behavior. Class always represents general behavior, and objects represents actual entity. Objects always represents actual entity. So Ram and Sita are objects, and a student, this concept of a student is a class. So in this way you can understand the concept of class and object in any programming language, not only in C++, in any programming language. So this is the concept related to class and object. Class is a blueprint for creating objects, and objects are instance of class. Let us add some more point to this class concept. So class is a blueprint for creating objects. A class consists of attributes and behavior. Class consists of attributes and behavior. Memory allocation is not done for class because we have not assigned any values to it. It is just a blueprint. Class is just a blueprint, so no memory will be allocated for class. Now if we create an actual object, it means what? Will be allocating memory for that particular object. So if I'm creating an object called as a Ram, then obviously Ram will have a name, they will have some address value, he will have some roll number value, they will have some, or he will have some marks obtained value. For that we need to allocate actual memory location. So memory allocation is done for objects. Memory allocation is done for objects. So class, any class that you define, need to have attributes and behavior that define that particular class. And if we are creating an actual object, so the actual object will be the instance of that class, and since the object will have the value for all those attributes defined, so memory is allocated for each object created. So this is the concept of class and object, not only in C++ but for in any programming language. So let us understand this concept by writing a demo code. Let us say I'm creating a file called as a student.cpp and has include IOStream using namespace std C++ program to understand the concept of class and objects. So you can write class. So to create a class, you have to use the keyword called as a class. So this is the user defined name, which is a student. So you have to compulsory use keyword class to create a class, and this is the user defined name. You can write whatever you want, means which type of entity you want. So for that name you can write over there. So I'm trying to create a class for entity a student. So the name of the class is a student over here. Now each class would consist of attributes and behavior. So what are the attributes of a student? So the attributes of a student can be a student will have a name of type string. A student will have roll number. A student will have some marks, so double marks. So any student will have name, there will be roll number associated with each student, and each student will have some marks. So what we are doing here is we are creating a blueprint for the class student, for a student. So a student will have name, roll number, marks. So these are nothing but some instance variable or attributes related to particular class. It's like, what we call it in context of object oriented programming language, we call it as a instance variables. Now let us define some behavior, which is nothing but methods. So in C++ programming language, behavior is called as a methods, and attributes are nothing but instance variable. Attributes are instance variable and behaviors are method. So we can define method as a normal functions in C++ programming language. Let us say I'll define a function called as a void set string name or string n int roll and double m. So we have defined a function called as a set that will assign value to all these instance variables. So instance variable is name will have a value of n, and then we have a roll number will be assigned value from variable roll. Then we have a variable called as marks assigned from the variable m. So this is one of the method. Another method we can define as many method you want. So let us define another method called as a display that will just display the value of that particular instance variable. So cout name is 2, name int l, cout roll number is 2, int l, cout marks obtained is 2, and return 0. See, this is the definition for class. This is how we define a class. Just wait. Okay, so this is the class is the keyword, this is the user defined name, and the content should be included within this curly bracket. Never forget to write a semicolon at the end of a class. So any class consists of instance variable. These are the instance variable, and it also consists of a method. So these are the instance method. So I have used return 0, sorry, this should not be used here. So these are the methods and these are the instance variable. So once class is created, let us create an actual instance for that particular class student. For that, I will define a function called as a main. And how to define a variable or how to create a variable of type student. So the name of class is student, and let us create a variable student as a s. Student s. It means what? S is an object. What we can say is S is an object of type student, or S is a variable of type student. So here student is a class, and we are creating a variable S, which is an object of type class student. So S is a variable of type student over here. Now once the object is created, now let us call the methods. So how to call method related to that particular student s? So the method related to that particular student s is, so all the method are defined within the class. So we have a method called as a set, and this set method takes arguments such as a name, roll number, and marks. So name is, let us say, Prakash, roll number is, let us say, 10, and marks obtained is, let us say, 244.56. So s dot set, and you can see there is underline which is saying something like is inaccessible. So what is this error? We'll be solving it now. So another method that can be accessed is s dot display. Although I'm able to access this method, it shows some error over here, means function display is inaccessible. So what does this mean is, so like in C++ programming language, there is a concept called as a access specifier. In C++ programming language, there is a concept called as a access specifier. So the access specifier that we can use is, one is a public access specifier, another is private, and another is protected. One is public, private, and protected. So by default everything is declared as a private. In C++ programming language, inside a class everything is declared as a private. So there is a rule, or there is a standard that we need to follow, is we need to declare all the variables or instance variable as a private variable. Since variable need not to be accessed outside of the class, we can declare, or we can define all the variables instance variable as a private, and we can access all those variables of a class by using the method. And since method need to be accessed outside of the class, they are declared as a public. So all the methods are declared as a public, and in most of the cases we declare instance variables as a private objects and methods as a public entity. So here private and public is nothing but a access specifier. So if you define anything as a public, it means that you can access it outside of the class. Now you can see here, since after setting or making them as a public, like the set method and display method as a public, we are not getting any error now. So the error is solved, means we can access the set and display method outside of this class scope. So this main function, we are able to access this set and display now outside of the main scope, since they are declared as a public, so we can access it over here. And since these are the private, means private attributes cannot be accessed outside of the class. Something like this, you cannot write s dot name which equals to, let us say, test. Since name is a private variable, name is a private variable over here, or defined within the private block. This variable name, roll number, and marks cannot be accessed outside of the class called as a student. So here we are getting this error. So this is the concept related to access specifier. So there is a custom, or there is a practice to make all the instance variable as a private, or should be defined within the private block, and all the methods should be declared as a public. Since method need to be accessed outside of the classes also, so the methods are declared or defined as a public. So there is also custom, or there is also a standard that all the instance variable need to be accessed from the methods defined within the given function. So this is the concept related to class and object. Here S is object of type student is a class over here. And if I run this code, so we'll get something like g++ student.cpp and /a.out. Well, and do like this, it will display the values related to particular student Prakash. So now Prakash is an object, and their values are name is Prakash, roll number is 10, and marks of 10 is 244.56. So that is the reason hereby I've mentioned something like this. Memory location allocation is done for object, but memory allocation are not done for the class, because it does not represent an actual values, whereas the object represent actual values. So you can create as many objects you want. Let us say student P and p dot display. So we are creating another object called as a p, of type student, and we are setting its attribute something like this, and we are calling the method display for that particular object. So the instance are p and s instances, or the objects are p and s over here. If you run this code, it means we are creating two separate objects. One is student Prakash, another is of student Sita, and they are on set of instance variable, and they have on set of method defined for them. Simply we have another student called as Prakash. They have on set of attributes, and there are on set of method defined for them. So this is the concept of class and object in C++ programming language. I hope every one of you understood the concept. If you have any queries, please let us know in the comment section. Now we'll be discussing some of the MCQ or multiple choice question related to concept called as a class and object. So what is a class in C++? The answer is B. It is a blueprint or template for creating an object. Which keyword is used to declare a class in C++? So the answer is A. We will be using the keyword called as a class. What are the data members of a class? What are the data members of a class? Function within the class, variable within the class, or constructor within the class? So the answer is variables within the class. Answer is B. What are the member function in a class? Variable within the class, function within the class, constructor within the class. The answer is B, which is function within the class. What is an object in C++? It is a keyword, it is a variable or a built-in data type. It is a variable of class type. So a student is name of the, let us say student is a user defined data type, and S is the variable of type student. How an object is created? Using new keyword by declaring variable of class type by calling a constructor. So obviously object is creating by declaring a variable of class type. Which of the following is true about objects? Object cannot have member function. Object can access and modify data members. Object can only be created a type. So the answer is B. Object can access and modify data member of a class. Can multiple objects of the same class have different values for their data members? The answer is yes. Each objects have their own set of data member. In our case, we have a Ram and Sita. So Ram have his own set of data members, and Sita will have their own sets of data member. Which principle emphasizes combining the data and function as a single unit? The answer is encapsulation. So what we can say is class is example of encapsulation. So class help you to combine or help you to combine attributes and behavior as a single unit. So that is nothing but the concept of encapsulation. So class is the concept related to concept called as a encapsulation. What are the main advantage of using classes and objects? So that is improved code reusability. So thank you so much everyone. If you have any queries, please let us know in the comment section, and please like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much everyone. We'll discuss another topic in the next session. Thank you so much.